Read my lips. Hello to all my gorgeous, gorgeous viewers out there. You're watching a new edition of my not very critically acclaimed series, ElliXia's Discography Dives, a series in which we delve into the wonderful discographies of some of my favourite artists. I'm sure all four of you who watch these videos regularly have been hotly anticipating my return. Well, here I am.
I'm back!
This season we're going to be taking a look at the extensive, illustrious discography of one of my favourite ever artists, Miss Sophie Ellis-Bextor. She's a singer, she was a Strictly finalist, she was a Masked Singer contestant, she's an author, she does a podcast, she's a mother, she is everything to me.
She's got a point, she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
She's one of my all-time favourite artists, and I've admired her work for a very long time. I've actually met Sophie 3 times during various tours that she's done. Once in 2014, 2016 and 2017. I can confirm she was lovely every single time. Before we get into the bulk of today's video, I also need to say to you, in case you weren't aware, I am ElliXia Q Valentine, and I am available for hire, so if you like what you see, feel free to like, subscribe and do all that goodness, and follow me on my socials. I'll include a link to my socials wherever you can find me in the description below. We are doing Sophie Ellis-Bextor this time around because she has a new album coming out called Hannah, which is out on the 2nd of June at the time of recording. So each week up until that point, fingers crossed that I stick to schedule, we will be reviewing each of her albums in the lead up to this release. I've wanted to do Sophie for ages because I love her so much, and I also have all of her albums on vinyl, and she's the only artist I can say that about. So this week, of course, we are going to be talking about the album that started it all-ish, and that is 2001's Read My Lips. Also available in a lovely vinyl courtesy of Plastic Pop Records. Isn't that gorgeous? If you like what you see, then head over to their website. I'll include a link to that actually in the description as well. They have all of Sophie's albums plus quite a few other releases in various different formats: vinyl, CD, cassette. And this isn't a paid promotion actually, I just think they're a really cool website and I'm very grateful to them for this. So you're welcome, Plastic Pop, I suppose. Thank you, and you're welcome. Side note, I love that this CD actually, this is a copy that I found second-hand in a cash converters in Worcester, which is no longer there. And it has the Album of the Week sticker. And I don't know about you, but I never like to take these stickers off because, I don't know, I don't even know what store this is. If anyone watching this recognises the store price sticker, then please let me know what it is, because it doesn't, I'm not entirely sure. But I always like little things like that. I also have this CD version that I have has one of those little postcard things. Do you remember when artists used to have, like, you could sign up to their mailing lists and stuff, like literally via the post? You don't get that anymore, do you? You don't get that on Spotify, do you? This album was released on the 3rd of September 2001. There's a bit of a discrepancy about that because Wikipedia says the 27th of August on one page and then the 3rd of September on the other. But I looked it up and the album charted, the date the album charted suggests that the 3rd of September is the correct date. Sophie Ellis-Bextor / Polydor, if you happen to be watching this, please let me know and clarify if you can remember. The album initially reached number 4 in the albums chart. It then got a re-release on the 17th of June 2002 to include 3 extra tracks, and this version actually charted higher, reaching number 2. The album itself went double platinum, and it remains to date Sophie Ellis-Bextor's biggest selling record. The track listing on both of these versions, plus the one that's available on digital platforms, is the 2002 release, so for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to be going through it in that order. And I have listened to the album in both orders, and it sounds much better in the revised order, so we're just gonna go with that. Sorry to any Read My Lips 2001 purists that may be watching. I say it's the album that started it all-ish because Sophie actually got her start in the indie band The Audience, all one word.
I mean, let me ask the audience.
And they released a debut album in 1998. Their album got like quite a bit of acclaim and hype, but it didn't do very well charts-wise and sales-wise, and subsequently the band were dropped and broke up. Thankfully for our Sophie though, it wasn't the end of the road. She got a second chance in the year 2000 with a little hit called Groove Jet. You may have heard it. This song propelled her to the forefront again, and the success of it caused her to get snapped up by record labels, and she ended up signing with Polydor. I will talk about both Groove Jet and The Audience in a later video, but because they are technically not part of this album, we're going to push it to one side for now. And also, just before I do get into the album itself, I want to just give a little special shout out to Sophie herself, but also thank you very much for writing this book, Spinning Plates. This is a very good read. I think even if you're not a fan of Sophie Ellis-Bextor, this is a very interesting, informative read about her life. And of course it contains loads of little nuggets of information about this album and the other ones as well. So it's been a very good research point. So thank you very much, Sophie. And so without further ado, let's get into the meat of this album. Let's dive in. This album is represented by 4 singles: Take Me Home, in brackets, A Girl Like Me, Murder on the Dance Floor, the double A side, Get Over You / Move This Mountain, and Music Gets the Best of Me. These singles did rather well. I mean, it's the most successful singles run Sophie's ever had on an album, with the first 2 reaching number 2, the double A side reaching number 3, and then Music Gets the Best of Me didn't chart as well. It charted at 14, but it's still, you know, still did well. I do think the singles, as much as I love them, I don't think they are the most representative of this record. This record is quite varied in its sound. There's a lot of synth, there's a lot of mid-tempo. There's also kind of a lot of sort of trip-hop ambient sort of sounds on it. I think Sophie's time in the audience, even though she didn't write and wasn't really creatively involved in that so much, I think what she sort of learned and absorbed from that translates onto this record. The singles are all very sort of dancey and disco-y, which is great, and I think that also does represent part of the album. It definitely doesn't represent all of it. And opening up this album, we have arguably, well not arguably, definitely Sophie's biggest signature song, and that is of course Murder on the Dance Floor. Obviously Dance Floor is like her biggest song. Like when she did the kitchen discos in lockdown, she always would end with it. Every set list she does ends with that song. Like I believe it was the most played song of 2002 as well. In case you've been under a rock and you've never been to a gay venue before, you know, and you haven't heard the song, I'll explain it to you. It's a very 70s disco inspired song, of which the early 2000s had loads of those. She's singing about trying to win a man's attention. I know about your kind. And so and so and so and so and so and so, I'll just have to play. And she's singing, you know, there's a murder on the dance floor, but you better not kill the groove. DJ, we're gonna burn this goddamn house right down. Not the most wholesome of lyrics, obviously, but it's still iconic. And this song went on to reach number 2 in December 2001 upon its release, and easily remains, you know, her biggest hit. And I'd definitely say one of the most popular songs of its era. I remember I saw Sophie in 2017 for the Familiar tour, and the crowd were, dare I say, uncouth a little bit. I can remember at the tour somebody in the audience shouted, "Sing Murder on the Dance Floor," and it's just like halfway through the set, and it's like, of course she's gonna fucking sing her biggest hit. Like, come on now, come on. Let's get some perspective. Let's get a grip on reality here, please.
Now, look.
I've got to talk about the video. It is so camp. We've got Sophie and a rather attractive dancer taking part in this dancing competition that looks like it's in some sort of community centre. The prize is a very lovely, sparkly pair of shoes. She's doing whatever it is she can, whatever it is it takes to win those shoes. Everything except dancing, basically. Sabotages all the other contestants. She drops some butter on the floor so that someone slips. She spikes some of their drinks. She chloroforms all the judges. She trips over another dancer. She plants like some underwear in one of the male dancers' jacket, and this female dancer slaps him because she thinks he's been cheating. It's very funny, and I think Sophie acts it really well. It's just funny to me because like, it's so obvious. Obviously, I know, like, you know, the deep lore of pop music videos from 2001, you know, isn't very extensive. It's just so obvious to me that she's sabotaging them. Like, it looks as if, like, if I were one of the dancers there, or one of the judges, I'd be like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And I guess maybe they were just so engrossed in the dancing that they, you know, they just simply didn't pay any attention to anybody else. And then there's the shot at the end of Sophie, like, with holding the shoes and being like, you know, with the and I have to give a shout out to her iconic green eyeshadow as well. Very, very nice. And of course, it is imperative, nay, a legal requirement, if you hear this song in public, in the chorus, You have got to do the stomp. It upsets me greatly if I'm in a venue and no one does the stomp. You know what I mean? Allow me to use my heels to demonstrate. Murder on the dance floor, but you better not kill the groove. Now granted, it's not in the actual release, it's only in the video, but like, come on. We as a society need to do better. It greatly upsets me if I'm out and I hear that song and nobody does the stomp. Or if you can't do a stomp, do a clap or something. Like I can't not do it.
But you better not kill the groove.
Yes, this song obviously is a classic. It's a song, if you only know one of her songs, it's going to be this one. So moving on, we have track number 2, which is single number 1, giving Spice Girls 2 Become One tease. And that single is Take Me Home, in brackets, A Girl Like Me. This song was released in August 2001, almost exactly a year to the date from the Groovejet Spiller collaboration. And I think this was definitely quite a hotly anticipated release given how big Groovejet was. It's a cover of Cher's 1979 disco classic. I really love Cher's original as well. But Sophie actually changed the lyrics, a lot of them herself. The song refrains the Take Me Home hook, and the melody is the same, but the lyrics are almost entirely different. Cher's version is very sultry, I suppose, whereas Sophie's is a little bit more dominant, I would say. I love both versions, and I don't really think one is better than the other. I think they're both, you know, I love both of them. What's nice about Take Me Home as well is that Sophie actually heard this song whilst on the road promoting Groovejet, and she liked it so much that she did a cover of it. According to Sophie at the time of the song's release, Cher did not like Sophie's changed lyrics, and Sophie claimed that Cher's people had said that she didn't like the song. So I think Sophie didn't say that like she heard Cher say it herself, but that she'd just been told that Cher wasn't keen. However, in the book Spinning Plates, Sophie herself actually admits that she made that up for a bit of publicity. Extract from the book itself. My first single, Take Me Home, was a cover of a fabulous Cher song. I had changed the lyrics and made sure people knew I had co-written the new lyrics. And I was so sorry about this. I lied and made up a story that Cher didn't like my new lyrics because they were too sexy. I'm still a bit shocked that I was believed at all. I mean, Cher, who is amazing and who did a video in a bodysuit while straddling a cannon, thinks my lyrics are risque? Ha ha. I promise I haven't lied too much over the years, but come on, that's a good one. When I told Richard, Sophie's husband for those who aren't aware, he was very confused. Why did you lie that Cher didn't like it? Because I thought it was funny. There you go. I do have to say though, that does beg the question to me. What does Cher think of the song? Has she heard it? I mean, I can only assume that she would have had to have given permission, but then I don't know whether Cher wrote it in the first place, so she might not have had to. I don't really know how that all works. But yeah, Take Me Home is a lovely little disco number, and I think it's definitely one of her biggest hits. On to the third track on this record. What is this hand? On to the third track on this record, we have Lover. Lover was apparently, according to Wikipedia, going to be the album's second single before it got changed. And I couldn't find any sort of verification on this, but apparently it's because the original release's sticker says that, but I couldn't find any pictures of it and I don't have a copy myself. Lover is an enjoyable little song. It's rather electronic. It's quite quirky. Very simplistic in its lyric, like I'm going undercover, I'm gonna be your lover, I'm going undercover, I'm gonna be your lover, lover, lover. I think like sort of the production of it and the instrumental of it very much make it a bit more interesting. So interesting, I don't really have much else to say about it, but there you go. Track number 4 is Move This Mountain, which was released as the album's third single and was a double A-side with Get Over You. Worth noting though that Move This Mountain did only get released in the UK. Everywhere else, Get Over You got released on its own. Move This Mountain is, out of all the singles, definitely the most reflective and indicative of what this album actually sounds like. It's grand, it's sweeping, it's very big. I like the defiance in the lyrics, the idea of I can move any mountains that you make, I can lift you up on my back without a break. It's very much whatever you throw at me, I will be able to take it and you're never going to bring it down. She also says, take this chance, I won't repeat this. And anytime Sophie says chance in a song, I love it because it's never chance, it's chance. Chance with an extra H. Sophie herself said that it was her favourite song on the album as well, and it was like the penultimate song, I believe, on the tour. The video that it received is very strange because it's really just sort of Sophie with loads of special effects and wind machines and stuff. Out of the two videos from the AA sub-release, Get Your View definitely probably had the bigger focus. The visuals in Movers Mountain look very weird because there's a lot of like doubling and, you know, all this kind of effect, but I can't obviously do it myself. And at times she looks like a bit biblically accurate Sophie Ellis-Bextor. I think Movers Mountain, you know, a song as big as it would deserve more of a statement type video, but you know, it serves the purpose. At least it wasn't a tour compilation or live footage compilation video because, I'm not a fan of those. Does Sophie have any of those? She might do. Top of my head, I can't. Oh no, she does. Well, we'll address that when the time comes. Track number 5, single number 4, is Music Gets the Best of Me. I absolutely adore Music Gets the Best of Me. It's joyous. It's probably the most joyful that Sophie sounds, at least on this album anyway. I think it definitely is more indicative of what was to come with future releases. I think up until this point, sort of like, you know, the album's imagery and overall aesthetic was quite serious. The album was called Read My Lips. That's quite a strong statement, isn't it? Like, read my lips, I'm not fucking around, basically. And, you know, in a lot of the promo shots and interviews, Sophie is quite, you know, stern. A lot of the imagery in the album booklet is very, like, you know, it's very, like, serious face. Something she has definitely loosened up with over time, but I think it might actually be due to nerves more than anything. So it's nice that Music Gets the Best of Me is a bit more joyful and it, you know, shows a bit more warmth. Because Sophie, as we have seen, you know, many a times in the kitchen discos and, you know, but just her general presence, she's quite goofy and she's, you know, she's actually very quirky. And I think Music Gets the Best of Me shows a bit more of that lightheartedness. And it's definitely one of her most feel-good songs out of all of them. And it reminds me almost a bit of like, it could be a sister song to Kylie's Love at First Sight, which was released that same year. This is if like Love at First Sight, this is Love at First Here because it's music. See? Mashup idea incoming. And there's no need for jealousy, music gets the best of me. Just baby, when I heard you for the first time, I knew we were meant to be as one. There are 2 music videos for Music Gets the Best of Me as well. Of varying quality. I believe they were both directed by Sophie Muller, who is a long-time collaborator with Sophie and is behind some absolutely wonderful music videos, not just of Sophie Ellis-Bextor, but of loads of other artists as well. Video number 1, which was the one that was released in music channels and was the main one, is very cutesy. It's kind of like a sort of footage film. It shows Sophie being wholesome and cute and like on holiday, like in an amusement park, at the beach, on a boat, etc. And again, very much helping with that whole sort of, here's a much nicer, softer. That's a very cute video. It's got nice red hair. I really like that video. The red hair in that video is kind of like, you know, a little bit of an homage with this look. Video number 2, however, is very, it's questionable. Basically, right, let me see if I can remember this accurately. I recently rewatched all the videos in preparation for this, you know, research for this video. I hadn't watched the second video for Music Gets the Best of Me in a long time, and my face the whole time was kind of just like... So she enters this very posh party. No one there seems to know who she is. She walks up to the CD player, puts the song on, dances on the table. Then she travels into an operating theatre. Some surgery is going on. I can only hope that it isn't like serious life-saving surgery because, my God. She starts dancing with one of the surgeons who looks very bewildered, but doesn't seem to mind. Then she comes out of that into like this limousine, which looks as if it's prom because the people in the limousine look quite young. She then goes up through the roof into this couple's bedroom where they are doing things in the bed that, you know, people do, and taking Polaroid pictures of themselves whilst they're doing it. And then Sophie's like crawling up the bed, gets in a photo with them. They don't realise until the Polaroid's printed, and the woman in the couple pushes her out. She then goes out the window with the Polaroid, gives it to a random person outside, and then she ends up in like a bathroom where there are these 2 twins there who point a hair at her because now she's wet. And then I think she's back at the house where she was before, like the guests at the dinner party and looking and be like, oh, this bitch again, great. Then she says to the host, as the song finishes, she says to the host, thank you very much, have a lovely evening, or something like that. And the host looks very bewildered and is like, thank you for coming. And I'm like, I'm just as bewildered as the host. It's a very weird video. We'll get to it next week, but that video would really suit one of the songs from Shoot From The Hip, their second album. Track 6 is the song Sparkle. This was actually a UK only bonus track, and it was also the B-side to Take Me Home as well, so it was her first ever B-side. I really like Sparkle. It is quite unusual, like this time signature that it's in. I don't know my time signatures and my terminology, so I do apologize, but it's kind of like a, well, I don't know, but it's not a conventional pop time signature anyway. The lyrics are quite simple, but the production is quite flourishy and makes me very nostalgic, weirdly. It gives me like PS1, PS2 vibes. And the song itself as well was the opener of the Read My Lips tour, and it works very well, I think. Because the lyric is, I'm only giving you love tonight. It's like, here we are for one night, you know, you, me, and the crowd. Let's enjoy ourselves. Following on there, we have track number 7, The Universe Is You. This to me is one of my favourite songs on the album. If I had to release another single, it'd probably be this one. The production has a lot of character. She's addressing a man who she's sort of seen and is like, oh, you're making me really, you're taking a lot of my attention kind of thing, and I'm enjoying it. It works really well on the tour with a live band as well. And it also contains the album's title. The opening lyric is Read My Lips. And Sophie took the title because she said she liked the statement of it, and also that it was reflected in her strong lipstick on the cover. It's actually funny because at the time of the album's release, she said she wasn't a fan of when artists would name an album after a specific track because it would be giving favoritism to that specific track. Which I do understand, but it's just funny because 10 years later she went and released Make a Scene, and
I'm not very keen on picking a song title as an album title because I think it's almost like favoritism for that track.
We see you, Sophie. You lied about Sharon and you lied about your album title choices as well. One to you. Track number 8 is I Believe. This is probably the closest, or one of the closest songs on the album to be a ballad. It's very, very low tempo, quite trip-hoppy. I feel like I Believe would work well, actually, ironically, as a dance track. The chorus is quite sort of uplifting. I think the chorus would work well as part of a dance track, definitely, because it would, I think, take it to a much higher level. Then we move on to track number 9, which is an absolute banger, if you ask me. And you do ask me because you're watching my video. This is Get Over You. It was the album's 3rd single in the majority of the world as a solo track. Get Over You is top tier Sophie in my eyes. I absolutely adore it. It's a song that is full of sass and attitude. It's cutting, it's dry. It works in a way that Sophie is really good at delivering with her posh accent. You know, likewise, obviously. Telling her ex-boyfriend where he can go, literally, because the chorus says go, 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 go. You drive me crazy up the wall, think you're Mr. Know-It-All. Like, she is reading this man down to filth. And I love it. It's a very therapeutic song to sing, actually, if somebody's upset you and you're just like, oh, do you know what? Just bugger off. And then, if the song itself wasn't good enough, we have the music video, which is giving you charisma, uniqueness, and talent in spades. She's in a bridal gown shop, and she's a mannequin. And she's paired with this male mannequin who's a groom. But the shop person moves the groom to a different bride. And Sophie comes to life and is a bit like, excuse me, I'm not having that. When the shop assistant isn't looking, she breaks out, she starts to move, she breaks out of the window. How the shop assistant himself doesn't notice, I don't really understand, but there you go. We've already established that the passerbys aren't very good at noticing things in Sophie Ellis-Bextor videos from this era. She breaks out of the shop, she takes her wedding gown off, has this gorgeous pink number underneath. She takes the veil off, takes the hair down, and she begins to free the other mannequins in the other shop windows. It's fierce as fuck. She's giving drama, but at the same time giving unbothered, and I love that. The song also sounds really great with the glass smashing sound effects as well. And then at the conclusion of the video, her and the other models are dancing. It's like the queen of the mannequins, because they're very much like, you know, this, whereas Sophie has a lot more of a fluid movement. And then at the end of the video, the icing on the cake, she goes like that, and the camera shatters. It's drag. It's a draggy video. It's a very draggy video. Single itself reached number 3, and funnily enough, actually, I mentioned Kylie's Love at First Sight earlier. That was the song that was number 2 that week. So, oh my god, like, the stars are aligning. If I was as big a fan of Kylie and Sophie Ellis-Bextor now, back then as I am now, oh god, I would have been in heaven that week. Moving on to track 10, we have By Chance. And this is by chance, not by chance, it's by chance because of the way she says it. This is a very lovely one. It's mid-tempo. It kind of fits in that sort of ambient, you know, dare I say, trip-hop vibe. It was also done nicely on the tour as well. She did an acoustic version where she sat down to sing it on the tour. I've spoken about the tour quite a few times. You actually can watch the tour on the Watch My Lips DVD, which I just realised doesn't say the name of it on here. Oh no, it does say it. It says it on the spine. I love it when artists like take a version of an album, whether it's like the video collection or a remix collection, and they alter the title slightly. Pleases me a lot. Track 11 is Is It Any Wonder, which was produced by none other than Moby, who was very impressed by Sophie's collaboration with Spiller on Groovejet and invited her to New York to write and record some songs with him. According to the book, it seems as if he didn't really like the results. This is the only song that made the album out of 5 songs they came up with together. And she says in the book that Moby wasn't keen, and he actually asked for his name on the record itself to just be credited in his real name and not as Moby, which that's not very nice. Because Is It Any Wonder is actually a lovely track. It's very minimal and peaceful. It's pondering, you know, life and love and all that. The story behind that, sort of the inspiration of it, was nice as well. She said in an interview that it was written and recorded in February, and it was in New York, and it was snowing, and she was in a hotel, and she was looking out on the landscape at night. It was, you know, covered in snow. I can imagine that's a fantastic view. It also actually didn't get a single treatment, but a remix of the song did get included on Music Gets the Best of Me as a B-side as well. Track number 12 is Leave the Others Alone. I really love Leave the Others Alone. This is a song that for whatever reason just never clicked with me until like 4 years after having the album. I was on a megabus to Sunderland, and that's a 5-hour trip. At the time, Sophie had 5 albums, and I was like, okay, 5 hours, 5 Sophie Ellis-Bextor albums. And listening to Leave the Others Alone, I was a bit like, where has this been? Like, where has this song been? I really like this. Why have I never paid this song attention before? I can't tell you what it's about. I really can't tell you what the lyrics are about. I don't really get it, but it's very trippy. It feels like almost hallucinogenic. Like, it feels like a real summer haze, lazy, but in the best possible way kind of song, and I really love it. It's one of the only songs, actually, from this record that wasn't done on the tour, along with I Believe. And I get that for I Believe, but for this song, I think it definitely deserves a live outing. I think it's underrated as hell. Like, I love it. Track 13 is another UK bonus track, and it is called Final Move. This is one of my favourite tracks on the album as well. I think it's probably my favourite of the non-singles. Final Move addresses like the breakdown of a relationship where it's like, no, this is it. Like, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I have been looking at this. I've been trying to sort of justify why I'm still here, but it's not working anymore and I need to leave. It's a song that I've definitely related to, you know, in my time when you've been in that sort of situation which maybe was good in the start, but then became a bit toxic, or it just isn't sort of serving you anymore, and you're like, look, I don't want to hurt anybody, but look, I think I have to put myself first and do what's right for me. And I think Final Move is very strong in its stance. Like, I can imagine it's somebody who's like finally sort of plucked up the courage to say, look, this is enough. I love that the verses are quite sort of soft in their delivery, and the chorus is a bit more harsh. I love that contrast because there's not a huge difference between them, but it's noticeable. The change in tone to the chorus is very noticeable, and I think it's like the perfect song for like a conclusion to a bad situation. And it works really well as an album closer. It isn't the album closer here, but in terms of like the non-bonus you know, in terms of like a standard sort of flow, it is the penultimate track. I think it works really well as a closer, period. And that's funny to me because on the original release, it was track 6, I think, or like track, no wonder they had to change it. Track 14, which is kind of the closer, because track 15 is a live version of Groove Jet. I don't really count that as part of the album, as more just like, you know, here's a bonus track at the end. Track 14 is Everything Falls Into Place, which is a very up-tempo, kind of 80s inspired track. She said that it was like they wanted to see how 80s they could go with it, basically. I don't mind Everything Falls Into Place. It's one of those songs that I think, again, has a very retro feel. I feel like it would work in a PS1 like racing game or something to that effect. So it has a charm for me with that, but it is definitely not my favourite. But as an album closer, you know, it does sort of feel very final. You know, it does feel this like Everything Falls Into Place. It's kind of like, oh well, everything's fine now. Also got the remix treatment for the Me Against the Music, wrong artist, for the Music Gets the Best of Me single release, and it was called Everything Falls Into Busface because it was remixed by Busface, who later worked with Sophie Ellis-Bextor. I've never heard of Busface outside of this, so I don't really know much else about them, and I actually couldn't find the remix on YouTube, so I have nothing to say about it. I do have the single of Music Gets the Best of Me, but they're not on Spotify, and I couldn't be bothered to load my laptop up. So sorry, it could be the best remix I've ever heard in my life, but we'll never know. If it is, I'll address it in next week's episode. Hi, this is an ElliXia from the future moment. I finally listened to this remix, and yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. I prefer it to the album version, probably. So there you go. I hope all my bus faces out there are happy now. Thank you. We move on to the album's B-sides, of which there are 2 of them, aside from the ones we've already talked about. Never Let Me Down, a B-side to Murder on the Dance Floor. This is a very sort of cutesy number. Nice to use the key change. We have a key change in the chorus, and I always appreciate that. Not very much to say about it. It's like a nice enough track. I mean, I don't think the album's any worse off for not having it. And then we have the other B-side, which was to the double A side of Get Over You and Move This Mountain. And this one's called Live It Up, in brackets acoustic version, because to this day, there hasn't been a non-acoustic version that's ever been released or leaked. So I don't know what the story is there. Sophie/Polydor, if you happen to watch this, then, you know, please let me know. Live It Up has potential to be really good. As an acoustic song, it works fine. Like, if I was at like an acoustic open mic and someone did a song like it, I'd be like, yeah, this is good, I enjoy this. But it's kind of a shame that there isn't a non-acoustic version out there, because I feel like it has quite a bit of disco. Again, that early 2000s, 70s inspired disco that was very present at the time. I think it would work very well in that kind of sound, so I would love to, you know, to hear it one day. It's been 21 years, but you never know, you never know. And that concludes the album. I mean, I know I'm not going to talk about Groove Jet really, because I'll save that for the bonus video later on. But in short, in case you're dying to know right now, Groove Jet is a very good song. I think Read My Lips on a whole is a successful record to me. It shows that Sophie isn't just a sort of dance artist, and that there's a lot more to her styles than one might think. Sophie does come across as very mature. I actually forget on this album she was only 22? 21? She's 21. No, she wasn't. She was 22. She was born in 1979. She was 22. Yeah, she was 22. I'm confusing myself. Ageless Queen. The whole, I enjoy Read My Lips. Is it my favourite album of hers? No. Is it my least favourite album of hers? Also, no. And it laid the groundwork for a wonderful discography, which we, of course, are going to discover and reflect upon ourselves over the coming weeks. So that is Read My Lips. Our lips have been read. Thank you very much for watching this video. It's lovely to be back doing Discography Dives. Hopefully I won't leave it so long before the next one, but you know, I am a busy bitch, so who knows. Make sure you join me next week when we will be discussing 2003's Shoot From the Hip. Ooh, I feel like I'm kind of like doing the cover art a little bit. And until then, I've been ElliXia Q Valentine. Thank you very much for joining. Stay safe, stay gorgeous, and of course, as always, please book me. Mwah.